Hello and welcome to Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots.
Mindset. I think that sounds all right.
Roots. This is season 3 of the podcast. So thank you so much for joining us. Check out season 1 and also check out season 2. In this season, we are interviewing influencers with money and finance. Today, we're joined by Will Rainey, who financial well-being and improve their understanding with money. So Will is training parents to become financial superpowers, teaching kids about starting on their journey to a brighter future. So Will, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Neil.
So you're living the lifestyle. You're in Vietnam. That's where you're living at the moment. So I'm a big fan of 4-Hour Work Week, and he always talks about kind of living the dream, living somewhere else other than rainy England. So living in Vietnam. How is that? And well, first of all, tell us about Bluetree blog, money blog, and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Neil. So I'm very much working in a very corporate field, but to do with investments, dealing with, say, insurance companies, retirement schemes, governments and central banks. So I did that in the UK for many, many years. Then I moved to Hong Kong about 6 years ago now. Still working with very large corporates. But then I wanted to do something a bit different. So as you mentioned, the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, to say, okay, I don't need to be in the corporate life the whole time. What am I using my money for? So at that point in time, my wife and I decided that we're going to start saving up so that we can have a life where we can live somewhere else in a relatively low-cost place, have a bit more freedom from the general corporate world. So we kind of set out a plan to move to Vietnam, a year ago, but make sure we sort of saved up our money so we can live in a kind of low-cost way and live off our savings and the income that they generate. So that's what we did. So we moved here a year ago. We don't plan to stay here very long term, but we're enjoying the experience of having more time with our kids and more freedom and just living in a wonderful place with a different culture. But whilst I'm here and not in the corporate world, I wanted to make use of that time, and hence I wanted to start Bluetree. So Bluetree is on a kind of mission to help parents teach their kids about money, as you mentioned in your introduction. And it's a topic that I'm very passionate about, because I have my own children now, so 2 young daughters, and I want them to grow up learning good money habits, so they can have the kind of experiences that my wife and I are also having at the moment. So being able to have that freedom and the choices that we get to make because we've been saving and using our money well and making money work for us. And it gives also, I want to be able to help parents, because rather than talking to children directly, because I want to help empower parents to learn about money themselves, so they can teach their kids about money. But also, learning about money is a very kind of active activity. It's not so much about just going to a classroom or just read one single book. You have to start forming habits. And for kids to do that, they need their parents to be involved. And hence why I wanted to really empower parents to learn the basics of money, so they can then help introduce those habits to their children. And Bluetree
why is it
just
such a problem? Why are we in Britain so bad at saving or so bad at investing? What's caused this?
So in my view, it's just a general lack of education on the topic. So we have people who are very smart at all the academic topics, but we never talked about money at school, about budgeting. We're not talked about saving and interest rates and investing. Without any kind of guidance, we form spending habits. We naturally, as humans, we see money. As kids growing up, you'll see money, you'll see your parents spending money. You know that if you want something, you have to have the money and you spend it. So spending is just something that you naturally learn without money. And without any kind of guidance, that's potentially the only piece that you learn about money. So about saving is something you have to someone has to teach you that. And that's the bit that we fall down on generally. It's not just the UK, it's most other countries as well. It's just having where do you learn about that?
Exactly.
About saving. And it's not in school, and therefore it comes down to parents, and most parents were never taught that themselves, so it's a bit of a spiral.
Yeah, we learn so much from our parents, especially about money, how we kind of, even the feelings we get, it's not necessarily about what money can do, it's the feelings and kind of the emotion that money can cause as well. So I mentioned before, I was lucky enough to, my parents taught me money habits. They're both from Scotland and Glasgow, and they kind of, I guess, when I teach people about money, it gives me a chance to reflect and say, actually, what are my habits and what are my thoughts and understanding about money. I wrote my book, Millennial Money Mindset, and that it kind of puts a microscope exactly like what am I like with money. I'm almost the opposite. I realised about a week ago, I think I'm a hoarder. The difference between spending and like hoarding, it's not necessarily good or bad. I think that's caused a problem for, like, what are my own issues with money. I really, even like starting a business, like I'm reluctant to even invest in like adverts, or kind of, my business is doing quite well at the moment, and I want to take on staff, and I'm almost like, actually, do I want to? It's almost that fear for me to invest. No matter our experience, we all kind of have these kind of hang-ups about money, and we always, everyone has to continue to learn, like, even if you think stuff about investing, but everyone has these kind of hang-ups and things about investing. But kind of lessons would you learn about money? So what we're going to talk today about, kind of the 5 tips you would recommend kids start investing. What are your thoughts?
So I think for parents, the 5 tips, one would be just to give your kids some pocket money to help kids learn. And it really doesn't matter about the amount of pocket money they get given. It's just about having the opportunity to have money and make decisions about money from an early age. And I think that's just such a critical. I believe that pocket money is the most underrated financial educational tool there is. Because the kids can just learn so much at that young age. Even it's just to make that decision about, I've got some money, what decision am I going to make? Am I just going to go and spend it all? Am I going to save up for something later? Am I going to use it for myself, or am I going to use it for someone else? And there's just all those little habits that they can start forming. And the research shows that habits can be formed by the age of 7. So we always think about money, we'll wait until they're older and got jobs, etc. But actually, using pocket money from an early age can really, really help kids form good habits with their parents' help. So I think definitely is my top tip for parents, number 1.
I think it's a tangible pound coin in your hand, where you can actually feel it and touch it, and kind of the weight of that in your hand, rather than today we're kind of, because we're so used to seeing money on a screen, it's almost not real. But with credit cards, I kind of have my kind of bugbear with credit cards, and it almost seems unreal. It's like almost like a computer game where you go and just spend money and it doesn't seem real. Whereas if you've got actual pocket money, is a good example, where you've actually got money in your pocket and you've got the note, the £10 note in your pocket. Actually, it feels much more real and much more tangible, and you can actually picture that kind of visual thing of money, rather than just a line on a screen.
No, I agree. This cashless society that we're moving into is going to make it hard for that. So just talking to parents, and why don't you give pocket money? And it's like, well, I don't have any cash. I don't have any money around because I don't need it. So they might have it one week, but not the next. So I do encourage parents to have some coins around the house, just store them up for pocket money. And then if the kids do want to go and buy something, maybe get the coins off the kids and buy it for them, but just let the kids do the sort of transaction either with yourself or with the shop. But try and earmark any coins just for pocket money, so over time you kind of collect them up just for that single purpose rather than spending. Because I believe that tangible piece is so important. But I do believe that over time we're just not going to have that opportunity, but still just giving kids, even if it's digital, to say, look, you've got £5 or £2, whatever it is, you've got to make a decision what you're going to do with that money. Are you just going to spend it all, or are you going to save some? is just super powerful to help them form those habits.
So interesting. So what would be tip 2?
So tip 2 would be to, one of the key habits that is to help try and kids form the habit of saving 10% of all the money that they receive. Just from a very, very young, it just only has to be 10%. And it's just for every time they get a bit of money from either pocket money or through the birthdays or any forms, just from a very, very early age, just get them to save just 10% of that, even if it's a very, very small amount. Just in that habit of, it's only 10%. So if you're giving them £2 pocket money, that's only sort of 20p they have to put aside. So it shouldn't make any difference to their ability to go and spend and buy whatever they want. But if they can just get into that habit of just a small amount to be saved for the long term, it's just so powerful. And I always look back and say, imagine if I saved 10% of all the money I'd earned. I'd be in a much different financial position than I am today. I know I started later, but it's just such a powerful habit to get into, and hopefully as they get older they'll always just be like, oh, it's just what I do. I just always save 10% of all the money I have for the long term.
I think you're right. Saving 10%, it doesn't sound a lot, but incremental changes over time can build up massively. There's having good habits. So anything like if you eating food, if you just do simple things every day, can build up over time. And that's starting off at an early age can be really important. There's a good book called, I think it is Habit. I've mentioned it in the podcast before. I put it in the show notes, but it was a book I read. It was a book on habits. I was like, how much more can I learn about habits? But it was it was pretty mind blowing. It was, I think they used the example of the British cycling team where they make tiny changes to their bikes and to their diet and to their, even down to the clothes they wear, and it kind of, that compound growth over time was massive. So if you're starting off at a young age, it can be huge. I also read another study. It was in the States. I think the average person over a lifetime makes about $2.7 million, which because they're working 50 years or something over their working life, then you don't realise how much actually you do make, and you have that choice what to do with that money. If you're saving 10%, then obviously that's going to be massive by the end of 10, 20, 30 years time. That's super interesting. So what would be tip number 3?
Yes, tip number 3 would be to help children save up for something in the future. So that 10% that I just mentioned would be for the long term, and I'll come back onto that in a minute. But another piece is to get them to save just a little bit. Again, it doesn't matter how much, just to save up for a toy or a magazine or a trip to the zoo, but to delay their gratification and see the power of just building up to something for a little while and not having everything straight away. It's a super important lesson for kids today, probably more so today than even our generation growing up, because we live in this digital world where we can get so much instant gratification just by, we can wake up in the morning and touch a few things on our phone. We've spent sort of £20 even before we've sort of got out of bed so easily, and that's going to be more and more as social media has so much social pressure, but there's also that more advertising that's being more directed at us and tailored towards us. The temptation to buy is going to be higher and higher and higher. So to be able to teach our kids to say, right, you don't have to have that today. If you still want that in the future, then fine, you really do want that. But teaching our kids the delayed gratification has got so many benefits. And again, helping our children make that choice to say, do I want something now or do I want something in the future? Again, using pocket money and just saving a little bit every time is going to be very powerful and a good habit for them to form.
Delayed gratification is super important. We've talked before about in this podcast about we're a microwave generation. We kind of want everything now. We expect it to kind of be instant. Whereas in my book, Millennial Money Mindset, the subject line is, if you want the fruits, you need the roots. Essentially about having that patience, that courage and that belief that in the end, it's more about growing a tree, an apple tree, rather than actually getting it instantly. I think lots of different trading apps that you get, people, I'm not going to mention it online, but there's so many that have come out recently that people are buying and selling instantly on their phones, and it can't end well. I don't think people understand that, these app companies are making a fortune because the more you buy and sell, the more what you call the bid offer spread. I used to trade gas commodities, and every time you buy and sell, it's what you pay a price. The bid offer spread is what they call it. It's the difference between the buy and sell price, and you pay more taxes if you don't put it into a tax wrapper, and there's also more likely that you're going to time it wrong and get caught out. So it leads on to investing as well, starting from an early age where you can start off delaying that gratification and putting off for as long as possible, kind of spending that you don't necessarily need today. You can put that off until tomorrow or the next day. So that's super. So we're on, is it tip 4 are we on now, Will?
Yeah, tip 4. No, so the point you just made was really powerful, and I'll come back to that for probably tip number 5.
Okay.
Tip number 4. Yeah, tip number 4 is just to make sure your kids know how much money they have. I think this is a really important piece. So just regularly, whether it doesn't have to be every week, but maybe every month, just get them to add up how much they've got in their piggy bank, show them how much they've got in any savings accounts or investment accounts, but just get them in their minds understanding how much money do they have. So, and the more regular the better, because then they can just see the sort of pattern of how much they have. Is it going up, is it going down? And it just allows them to start asking questions. All right, why has it gone up? Why is it always 0 if they're spending it all? And coming back to the point around the pocket money that we just talked about, it just gives them that, about the sort of cashless society and people overspending. One of the pieces, they just don't know how much money they've got. And it's so easy, and especially as now it's all very digital. You can put so much on your credit card, and you come to the end of the month, you're like, I can't believe I just spent that much money. Where did it all go? Whereas if you know how much you've got, and you can kind of see that pattern, you can start doing the mental budgeting, and over time you can say, okay, well, I don't want my money to be going down, I want it to be going up. And because you're looking at more regularly, you can start to form those kind of calculations, even though it's very, very basic, from an early age, and trying to get a bit more control of your money. And there's that famous sort of quote, what gets monitored gets managed.
Peter Drucker, I'm a big fan of Peter Drucker.
And it's not I want kids to start doing big budgets and all that. It's just about, okay, just all you need to know is just broadly how much money you do have. And I kind of encourage, like, every week my kids, I sort of, before I give them any pocket money, I just say, right, how much money do you think you have? They can be an answer, and then we can talk about it, what they actually do have. And just from a young age, just always being in control of that number, I think is a very important tip and it's not just about money in the piggy bank, it should be all of their money they've got. So whether it's in savings, ISAs, investing, just so they know the whole spectrum. I'm a big fan. One of my kind of quotes or sort of strap lines is save and tell. So if you're a parent, don't have savings hidden away from your child and say, I'm going to give them savings when they're 18. I'll surprise them on their 18th birthday. It's, if kids can kind of see that those savings kind of growing over time, even if they're not allowed to spend it because it's been earmarked for when they're older, just allowing them to see that savings growing over time and taking some ownership of that money as well, it's going to just have more benefits than sort of going, here's lots of money on your 18th birthday, surprise. Because then they're more likely to be like,
I mean, imagine, if you get kind of given a big sum of money, it's like winning the lottery, and you kind of see the habits of lottery winners that they kind of end up spending it all. And that's super interesting about letting them know how much they've got. I've got an 8-year-old son myself, and I do give him pocket money. I do try and encourage him to save and ask him about how he spends money. It's quite an interesting one, especially with lockdown. There's been less for him to be out and about and spending, so his saving has been improved recently. So I was talking to him this weekend about what you're going to do with that money.
So I think that's number 5.
I didn't know that, so I didn't mean to jump in.
Is to really think about investing and how they can have that money growing. So as I say, if they can save 10% of all their the money they receive, the next piece to parents is to really say, right, how can we make that money grow over time? And on the point about visuals, so when I'm talking to my kids, and I encourage other parents as part of my blogs, is to say, right, think of money as a seed, and you've got a choice. What do you want to do with that seed? You can either give it away, like spend it, or you can plant it. And it's what do you plant it in? So I use my kids, you can either plant a flower, and that's like saving up for a toy, so because it's going to grow over time, but flowers don't last very long. So you're going to get a nice flower at the end of it, so that could be a toy, but then that money's gone. The other one is you can plant the money into what I call bushes, which is like into a bank account. So it's going to grow slowly, and it's not going to grow too big, but it's going to grow, and it's there for the long term. But then the last one is why I call it blue trees, and I'm not the only person to use investing and trees together. But plant a seed that can then grow into a tree, and that's very much about investing that money. And I think it's just very, very powerful visualization. I know the richest man in Babylon uses the tree analogy. I know you have Robert Gardner in Save the Acorns book. This is a great book for kids.
He's also got a game I've played. He's given me I met up with him for a coffee, and he gave me his card game. Fun enough, his Save the Acorns card game. I played that with my son, and he's as well. It's good.
Yeah. So just having that visualization on. For my kids to see that they're growing this forest, and so that's one of the main reasons I call my company Bluetree, is that I show my kids their blue trees over time growing as we invest their money for them every month. And they can just see, and every time that they save a little bit of money, they can know that they're planting a blue tree growing. And as you kind of mentioned, I've been teaching my kids about the stock market using companies such as examples like McDonald's, Apple, just so that they get that sense of ownership. And that's a key piece. It's just, I think that's the biggest switch in my mind, was when I go into a shop and I see people buying. If I'm a customer, I'm just giving money to that company, but if I buy the stock, I own that company. For every time someone goes in there, or if I'm just in that shop and seeing people buying all the goods, some of that money is mine, even though it's a very, very small percentage. It gives you that kind of good feeling. And so that's why I wanted to give to my kids. So I talked to them when I used McDonald's, and I said, when we go into McDonald's and you see all those people buying their burgers, actually some of that money is going to go to us, and it's going to grow, because we gave McDonald's some of our money so they can open new restaurants, or they created new burgers, and therefore use that money to make more money. And the more money McDonald's makes, the more money, bigger our money grows, the bigger our blue trees are going to be growing over time. So my kids, even though they're, like my eldest is 7, she really gets that kind of concept and likes the concept. She won't be able to explain everything about the stock market, but she knows that core principle of how and why her money is growing, because we're investing it. And it's something I'm very passionate about. A lot of my background is in investing, but it's trying to help parents, to help them to get comfortable with investing, because it's such a scary topic for people who don't know. And like a lot of what you've been talking about in your book and your podcast is to try and make investing not as scary, and trying to keep it very simple in terms of how you invest, but also that kind of mindset of actually investing isn't very complex. People make it seem complex, people make it seem scary, but over the long term it can be, if you just take a very long term view, invest in a low cost, diverse way, it's very, very simple and a little bit boring, in fact. It just takes a bit of a glamour, but if kids can learn that,
simple, not easy. That's the thing.
Debt and tax, all these different subjects, and the prerogative is to help make sure the parents understand the topic, but then also help them form ways to teach their kids these topics in an engaging way, using visuals like blue trees growing, or little stories, and recommendations in terms of books. So bluetreeblog.com, and it's got all my details on the website. So hopefully some of the people listening to this will go and check out that website and hopefully read a few of those blogs and help teach their kids about money.
Oh, thank you so much, Will. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for joining us to the listeners at home. So this is Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. So thank you to everyone who's given us 5-star reviews on the podcast. Please continue doing that. Please like, and please tell one person about this podcast. And also one more favour, please subscribe. I haven't been asking you to subscribe, but yeah, please subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us out. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Money Mindset. I think that sounds alright.